Hello, my children. I'm back. It's Jim. And it's time for another episode of... News from the Gelding. Okay, so it's one of those episodes again where I just talk about the things that have been happening recently. And some paintings as well. Some new ones. Free, to be precise. Apologies, I just had to deal with a rival magician in the neighbourhood. He'd been walking out and about with a unregistered wand, and it was out on display, so I had to vanquish him. Anyway, say hello, Sir Percival.
Good afternoon.
Good man, good man. Okay, right, so where shall we begin? Lots of inconsequential crap to get through. Okay, so the first thing is, I'm on my summer break at the moment, so 5 weeks off. I've almost finished the first week, and I'm trying to be far more productive than last year. This time last year, I had terrible tonsillitis. I had an infection back there, and it laid me up for a good couple of weeks, and it just set me back, so I didn't really do much at all. This year, that's all going to change. So I've already done 2 paintings this week. And I've got lots of others in the mix. There's a chap that contacted me recently through eBay, and if you're watching, old chum, I'm working on a few others of the sort that you were interested in. So ones that focus on the face. But anyway, those will be in the mix next 2 to 3 weeks, I imagine. But anyway, there we are. That's what I plan to do this summer. Right, number 2. Oh yes, allotment work. So recently my sister has acquired a local allotment in the neighbourhood. So we were helping her to clear the overgrown state that it was in. I didn't do a great deal, it has to be said. So you probably know I've got a defunct right wrist, which isn't good for much at all, apart from wielding the odd wand. So most of the time I was just sat on my bum doing bugger all. But I was trying to pull the odd weed with my other hand. But that's all been cleared now, mostly due to my parents who did the lion's share. And my sisters, obviously. I'm no good. I'm no good in those situations. So yes, going to be growing vegetables later. Well, she is. I'm just going to sit down and watch her and vape my head off. Okay, so number 3. Well, it was a few weeks ago now, but we, me and my sisters and Vanessa, we popped off to Exmouth, the next town along, and we attended a concert of the Wurzels. I don't know if any of you have heard of them. I've got a lovely combine harvester is one of theirs, and also the Blackbird song. Is it Blackbird? Yeah, it's up a tree and he's trying to get him down with a great big stick. That was really fun. And we were drinking loads of cider. Much fun was had. This photograph that we had taken with one of the Wurzels is one of the newly acquired members, it would seem, because he's far too young. I'm probably older than he is. But anyway, that was good fun. Okay, what was next? 3, 4, where we are. Oh my goodness, we're going to be reprising Slug News. Okay, so last week I went into the kitchen in the morning to brew the first coffee of the day, and what did I see on the floor but this? Yes, a damn slug. However, upon closer inspection, I realised it was not a slug, but a kidney bean. So, this is kidney bean news. For anyone unfamiliar with this segment, it's where we track the progress of various slugs that invade our apartment. I've noticed lots of trails recently in the studio. There's one down there, glistening trails where they've been coming in. They come in through the door, make a beeline for the kitchen, God knows what they do in there, and then they come back out. But today, this time it was a kidney bean. Okay, right, last one. I finished another short story for my science fiction, just about then. collection. So what I'm going to do is going to give you a rare treat here. I'm going to read 2 paragraphs from it. So there's timestamps down below if you want to just knock forward to the paintings. But anyway, get ready. I'm going to read the first 2 paragraphs. Now this is a story about a colony on a distant world. It's called The Children of Trappist 5. Now it's interesting because this colony has been established for around 80 years and they haven't been able to naturally conceive children. These 2 paragraphs won't really show much of the actual story, but perhaps gives you a flavour of the setting at least. So here we are, first two paragraphs. You don't want 2 chapters of this. Okay. Aidan casually drew on his oxygen regulator, supplementing the meagre amount carried upon the breeze. It was still dark, but under the light of the full moon he discerned the vast sea laid out beneath him in all its cold and fathomless glory. A quirk of the local geology, combined with the tidal force of the giant moon, conspired to create a relentless procession of huge curling waves, glistening black rollers that raced towards the desolate beach with eerie regularity. The thunder of the breaking waves always filled him with a profound sense of loneliness, the senseless metronome of a sterile sea. Though he had been born upon this remote world, had lived almost amongst its alien flora and fauna for the better part of 30 Earth years, his human senses reviled the reality that greeted them each day. That delicate balance of atmospheric pressure and gravitational force that had been the cradle of his species' ascent from primal sludge to bipedal sentience was here tortured into far more obscene configurations. Its air was barely breathable, its gravity remorseless vice, constantly willing submission. This was truly a world to test the last of a dying breed, a judge and executioner only too eager to snuff humanity from that great ledger of space and time. Okay, there we are. That gives a flavour. So that story is, it's a bit bleak, and there isn't a happy ending. I thought it was interesting to write about a colony. You know, often in science fiction, colonies are these kind of utopian, well, if they're not utopian, at least they're very successful colonies before stuff starts going wrong. My colony is on a planet that's just a bloody hellish place, and there's nothing they can do about it because it's taken them almost 1,000 years to get there. So they're stuck there in this predicament, and what's more, they're slowly perishing because they're not able to conceive children. But anyway, there we are. There's just a brief flavour of that particular story. I'm currently working on another one, the 6th one. And I'm hoping to maybe get to maybe 8 before I publish them. Self-publish them. Right. One of the paintings I'm going to be working on is going to be the cover for it. So there we are. But it will be available to buy if you wish. Let's get to the painting, shall we? That's why we're all here after all. So, right, the first one I'll show you is this one. Gotta watch out for my robes here. Okay. Here we are. It's a fairly small one, but it's a kind of retro futuristic city. Now, that's all I'll show it there. I'm going to bring up a clearer image for you. So let's switch the view, and where are we? Here we are. Hopefully my camera's not obscuring this. It probably is, isn't it? But you'll get an idea. So this is what we started with this painting. It was an abstract thing I did with just the palette knife. I tried to sell it online and no one was interested for some reason. But for me, it looked like a city as is. Obviously you have to use your imagination a bit, but anyway, I thought, right, let's add some colour to this thing. So I did that first of all, just blocking in some colours. So I went with kind of orange and purple. mostly, and then some of the previous blue and yellow showed through. An interesting assemblage of colours that I wouldn't otherwise have been able to come up with myself, I don't think. And then the last layer here is more opaque versions of the same colours, mostly white, I suppose, to get the more detail in there. So I just had fun playing with this. We've got some transparent domes here, just shown delineated by this line. Various other little paraphernalia that looks city-ish, but I just made it up on the fly. But if I zip through these, you can see the genesis of these various buildings. So to the left, you've got that hulking, ghostly presence, which I turned into this. I'll just do this a little bit, and you can see. Yes, much fun. That was much fun. Okay, so the next one. I need to switch back here. Oh, this is great. Okay, right. Next one is this one, which I just finished just a moment ago. So this is another one, another kind of science fiction-y kind of one. Again, it's not going to be very clear, is it? But don't worry, I've got your back in this situation. Let's bring up the screen again. Oh, flawless. Okay, right back here. So, like the previous one, this one started out as a very abstract painting. I produced this painting specifically for the purpose of elaborating upon it. So this was a tricky one. I mean, the forms here were quite subtle, to say the least. But if we move forward one step, you can see here how I've used some of these tenuous forms and blocked them out. So I used a very dark colour to just give a bit of structure to these shapes. The next stage was then to add kind of light sourcing, if you will. So on this structure here, I wanted light coming from the right hand side, a kind of cold light, and some interesting reflections going on these various planes that butting up against each other. Really like this object down here. So if we go back, you can see the genesis of that, a very nondescript smudge, which I've turned into this object. Yeah, so you can see what's going on. But the last stage, which I did earlier today, it took me a couple of hours, was this. Banging in a load of lights. So there we are, let's turn the lights on. Pretty much all the same colour, although I used two variations on that same colour, one lighter than the other. You may not be able to notice the difference. I had a lot of fun doing this, but it was quite a delicate manoeuvre because the previous layer was laid down the day before. And whilst it had dried pretty well, which is remarkable for oil paints, but it's so hot at the moment, it's drying very quickly. I was overlaying this green, and if I went wrong in any way, there's no way I would have been able to remove it, because as soon as I applied solvent to it, it would have burnt down through the previous layer because it's not completely dry. So it was a bit nerve-wracking, this. But yeah, I think it's quite nice, quite pepped it up a bit. Again, I was influenced by, as I've previously said, John Harris, the work of John Harris. This is nowhere near his ability or the beauty of his work, but I was relatively pleased with that. So there's that one there. Okay, so the final one is only on the screen because this was a commission. Someone contacted me about 3 weeks ago, maybe a month ago. So I can't show you the entire painting because I don't have permission to do that. So I'm just going to show a part of it, and the face specifically, because I want to talk about that. So here we are. So he liked one of my previous paintings that involved a kind of graffiti style in the background, and he wanted this specific figure laid over it. But he wasn't happy. Now, he's very familiar with this person, the way her face should look, and I didn't get it quite right. This was a bit of a problem for me because I'd already spent hours on it and I'd undercut myself already in terms of what I was charging. But never mind. I spent another 2 hours on the face and came up with this. So you can see here that the difference is subtle, but So the nose, I hadn't got it long enough, really, slightly off. The lips were odd, and the eye, and even the actual colour tones that I used. These are far warmer that we used in the reference photograph. Yeah, I'm much more happy with that. It took me 2 hours just to do those tiny alterations because it basically you have to repaint the whole face. Well, I have to anyway. I'm not able to just repair tiny parts of a painting because it would stick out, you know, because the previously I overlaid the painting over a grey ground. Anything that you would apply on top of that painting would therefore reflect the colours underneath. So it would be different colour values to the ones that were previously there. So I had to do the whole thing again. But anyway, there we are. There's that one. Okay, that's the end of that. Okay, I'm sorry, it's a very ramshackled episode today. There will be more of these to look forward to in the coming weeks. I'm reading a really interesting book at the moment, a piece of science fiction, The Animals in That Country, set in Australia. Very interesting indeed. I'm halfway through that. So if I'm able to finish it this week, I'll review that for the next episode. Otherwise, stay tuned and I will be showing other paintings that I've been doing recently. Oh my god, I'm already on 17 minutes. Okay, cheerio, and I'll see you next time. Say goodbye, Sir Percival.
Why don't you just fuck off?
Go, swine.